everyone. This is Debbie. And Debbie, I'm just so thrilled that you have done so well. Would you mind just sharing with the audience kind of what you were going through, what led you to find us, and kind of give us an idea of how things have gone since you've been with us?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I would love to. So back in about August of last year of 2025, I'd gone to my doctor. It was pretty much the same thing. Numbers weren't improving. Uh, they're checking all your blood work. They're doing all this stuff. And like I said, I've been a diabetic since 2004 and going all the ups and downs that comes with that, constantly going to the doctors every quarter, every half, every 6 months or whatever, going and getting your blood work done, getting everything done, and yet leaving there always discouraged and disappointed because although you feel like you're doing what you can do to or doing what they're telling you to do, you leave there discouraged and disappointed because things aren't getting better. And I felt like every time I left, it was like add another pill, add this, add that, and then still nothing changed. And so again, back in, I believe it was in February or March, is when I ran across your ad on Facebook. And like I said, there was something very calming, reassuring about your voice that just sort of drew me in. But at the same time, I was like, I'm just going to take a chance and listen to this and see, if there's anything new I can figure out. And so I did take your 5-day master class, which was, like every day for 5 days in the evening. And I'd sit there and listen to it and take notes and stuff. And at the same time, I was surprised being a diabetic for so long that there were a lot of things that I felt I hadn't been educated on being a diabetic. I'm like, how come they're not telling me that it's not genetics, it's not a gene, it's all the different things that you taught. I remember even just calling my sister and saying, "Did you understand? Do you know that diabetes isn't a gene? It's a lifestyle. It's kind of comes along with our upbringing and with what we're being taught and stuff." And so just a lot of those really cool little things that I learned during your 5-day master class that really got me excited to really want to jump on this program and get on this program and just see where it takes me. And I mean, it's been life changing and just so wonderful. I love it. It's just been such a blessing.
What things have you noticed? What has changed?
Well, the way I feel probably number one is the way I relate to food. I'm like, okay, before it was like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to eat the Lay's potato chips because it doesn't matter because every time I go to the doctor, I'm not doing any better anyway. So even though I was trying, so this time I feel like I've gotten just a real new appreciation for good food and just good lifestyle, basically, just knowing there's just certain things that I'm going to do without and I don't care. I'm not going to eat tortillas anymore. I'm not going to, there's just a lot of things that I don't allow myself. Sodas, I've cut out, diet sodas and like I said, things like that, like tortillas and rice. There's a lot of things I love, like Spanish rice. I love it, but I'm just like, once in a while, okay. But when I notice what it does to my blood sugar and when I notice on the other side of that, what it's doing to my blood sugar, staying low, my weight's going down, my moods have improved. I'm just overall feeling well, just starting to feel well overall. And so that's where the difference really came in, where I'm like, I started noticing inflammation in my body going down. I wasn't having all the aches and pains. And I'm like, my body I feel like was screaming for help, screaming for
Yeah.
help.
And did your blood work change?
Oh gosh, the next time I went to the doctor, was it July? So I started in like April, I believe, and then I went to her in July and she was at her desk. I was sitting in the waiting room, waiting for her. And she was at her desk and she just busted in the door and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you made me so happy. You made me so happy." And I was like, "What's going on?" She goes, "Oh, your numbers are down, your kidney function's great, your cholesterol's down, your A1C was down. I think I was at 9.5 and it's
Wow.
come down to like 6.5." And so she was just impressed with the whole bit. And of course, when I started trying to tell her about the program, she didn't really want to hear it. She just felt like it was all something I was doing. I was like, it's not just me. There's a program that I'm doing that's just totally working. It's working.
And have your friends and family noticed a change in you?
Oh, every one of them. Everyone. My husband's excited. My daughter's excited. Everybody's just excited. Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
And
all
what would you tell that person who was like you? They've been diabetic for 20 years. They don't know where to turn. They're skeptical. They may think that, because this is on social media, that maybe not reliable or whatever. What would you tell that person now that
boy,
you're at the other end of this?
right? You're absolutely right. Because when you tell them I found it on Facebook, they kind of just give you that look like, what? I'm like, I'm serious. I found it on Facebook, but I'm like, I took the chance. I signed up. I did it, and it works because everybody's like, "Oh, you're on Ozempic. That's why you're losing weight." And I said, "No." I said because I had been on Ozempic for almost like 3 or 4 years, and I hadn't lost weight,
Wow.
hadn't, and my numbers hadn't improved. And so I said, so although I am on Manjaro, but um, I told him that wasn't the trick. That was not the solution. And that was not, what made things better. What made things better was me getting on this program and following this program.
Yeah.
And they're like, I said, I'm having to take a lot of supplements, but there's supplements that my body obviously needed because it triggered something in my body that caused it to start losing the weight and start feeling better and getting rid of the inflammation, getting rid of, everything that was bothering me. And so I'm like, so I can't attribute this to Ozempic, Monjaro, anything. I said, I attribute it to following this program.
Yeah. And then I know Nicole was your coach. What's the difference about having a coach help lead and guide you?
Well, also there again, uh, when my questions came up and they had the answers, I'd say, oh, well, what about this? She goes, oh, well, let's, kind of, track, go this way, change tracks or whatever, and they give you that, just not only the encouragement about you're doing good, you look great, those sorts of things, but when you bring it up to them saying, oh, there's still this area that, I'm not completely doing well in or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, let's try this, let's try that. And they adjust it to your needs and what's going on with you. And I really appreciated that because there was so many times, she even like, I was going on vacation. She goes, Debbie, I know it's hard when you go on vacation. It's hard to stay on the program, but just do your best. And then when you come home, get back on it. Sure enough, I'd go with that mindset that it's okay. You don't have to be perfect, but at least pretty much almost daily you get up and really stick to the program and do it, and you see the results. And so you're like, okay, it's okay to kind of relax a little bit here and there.
Yeah, yeah, it's a daily decision that you want a better life, that you don't want to continue taking meds and all the complications. So
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled and proud of you and congratulations for everything that you did. I know that this is going to help someone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I went to the doctor the first time after I'd started the program, and she's like, "Oh, you're down 14 pounds," and I was like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, kind of still trying to tell her about the program. And then now this last time, she's like, "You're down 40 pounds," and I'm like, "Yep." I said,
Wow.
"I'm down 40 pounds." Yeah, I went from 176 down. I was down to 139 when I went last Friday to see her. And
That's fantastic.
she was like, oh, and I keep telling her, well, it's this program I'm doing. But because she was like, well, what do you eat? She wants to know what I'm eating. And I'm like, okay, well, in the morning, I, have a high fiber, high protein diet. I said, so I'm doing, whatever it be, scrambled eggs, cottage cheese, avocado toast. I was going on, I said, and then, and then sometimes lunch is just leftovers from the night before. Night before might be like Tuscany chicken or something, and all these different things. And I told her, she says, well, what are you snacking on, or what is your dessert? And I said, well, I make coconut milk with chia seed. And I said, and I'll top it with some raspberries, some blueberry, things like this. And she goes, what's chia seed? And I'm like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even know what chia seed is. I'm like, this is where I look at it like she's a medical doctor that only depends on the science and doesn't look at the good
Right.
healthy things that I said it's an omega-3 and I'm trying to explain to her. She I
So
don't
you're
know.
teaching her.
I'm teaching her because she had a respiratory infection, and I said, have you tried Molian tea? And she was like, I've tried everything. I don't know what that is. She didn't have a clue what that was. I said, there's so many good things out there that if you're educated and They truly, truly help you, and it just makes you feel so much better. You feel like you're doing good for yourself instead of just popping another pill and hoping it works, you know?
Right. And that your body can heal no matter what age you are.
Yes, and that it heals itself. If your body heals itself, if you give it like the proper nutrition and I mean, I've done so good with the water, keeping up with my water and keeping up with just all the program. I just get out my basket of supplements in the morning. I'm like, okay, I got to do my GABA, I got to do my GSAs, I got to do this, I got to do that. Just stick to it, and it works.
Well, thank you again and congratulations. You're the one who saved yourself. So I'm so thrilled
Well,
for
thank
you
you.
and thank you for doing this today.
Thank you so much for your educating us so that we can heal ourselves and we can do the work. Yes.
Of course.